Well, hi everybody. I'm Lori Woosley Uden, and I'm going to be your presenter this evening. And I'm really excited to share with you information that I have learned regarding tower farms. So many of you on the line may have already heard of the tower garden, and I know many of you on the line have your own tower garden. But it's interesting how we're using these tower gardens in a larger capacity in a farm setting. And I'm going to go over some of that information tonight, which is really fascinating, and I hope that you all enjoy the information. So let me get my PowerPoint up here. So first of all, Juice Plus and the Tower Garden Company, it is our passion to inspire healthy living around the world. And we do that through plants. And in our Juice Plus product, we do that with powdered produce in capsule and in powdered format in our complete shakes. And what we know is that people are not, they are nutrient deficient, not vitamin deficient. And so we're going to talk about the tower garden tonight and this growing system. And while you watch the presentation, if you could think about who do you know that would maybe enjoy a tower garden, and then think of the person who invited you to this call. So from healthy and environmentally conscious people to philanthropists to landscapers to gardeners, those are all people that could love their own tower garden. And the tower garden is trusted by hundreds of forward-thinking farmers. This concept, especially not maybe the concept of aeroponic gardening, but the tonic and the idea was one of the brainchilds of NASA, and it was perfected at Disney World at Epcot. And we can see some other companies listed here that have taken part of the tower garden and tower farm philosophies, if you will. So you can see a picture of me holding my phone, taking a selfie, but if you look close, you can see the plant I'm holding, and you can see how long that root is. And in a little bit, you'll see some of what the inside of the tower garden looks like. So why do we need to even look at tower gardens or tower farms as an option? And one of the reasons why is that the alternatives to traditional soil gardening has become an issue because of droughts that are in parts of the U.S. where the majority of our food comes from. So this is the summer of 2015, and all that red is where there were droughts. And along with that, the further that our food travels, the fewer nutrients that are in our food. And on this slide, it just shows 3 crops, but our average food travels around 1,500 miles. So if our food is traveling that far, we're not going to have as much nutrient density in that food. And one of the number one reasons why is because it has to be picked before it is ripe. Otherwise, it's mush by the time it gets here. And if it's picked before it's ripe, then it's missing out on getting a lot of those nutrients. So just as alarming as the drought and how far our food travels is how many chemicals are used on our food. I mean, this just blows my mind when you look at, in just really under 70 years, the chemicals have gone up from 800 to probably now over 10,000. So what do we do? So this article, there's lots of articles being written out there. I'm just going to feature a couple. Famine or feast? Is it soil? Is it hydroponics, aquaponics, aquaculture, or aeroponics? We look at a need to produce more food because we're looking at more human beings on the planet, and there's not enough space and not enough land that can sustain nutrient-dense farming. And then how do we even create more farmers? We agree, most everybody agrees that we need more farmers, but a lot of farmers are leaving that discipline, if you will, or that craft or that trade because of many factors, too many that we can get into today. But one of the solutions to this issue with the drought and the nutrient density issues are tower gardens. So you can grow green. For those that are environmentally aware, you can grow healthy. It's one of the easiest gardens to grow on earth. And one thing that's one of my favorite things about the tower garden is I can grow year-round inside, and I'm using 10% less water and space. It's the world's first one-of-a-kind vertical aeroponic growing system. And in this picture in the upper left corner, you can see the inside of what the tower garden looks like. You've got a reservoir of water, a submergible pump that pumps it up to the top. And as it trickles down, it is hitting the root base. And so you can see the lady here holding a plant like I was, and you can see how the roots come down. Well, those roots grow inside. There's no soil, so there's no weeds. And as the water and the nutrient-based solution trickles down, it becomes highly oxygenated as it goes through a series of smaller holes, and it feeds those root systems. So how do we know that the tower garden even works? So I find that this study is very interesting. It was done at the University of Mississippi. I knew nothing about this university and how well known they are regarding their soil, but they're a pretty big deal, and anybody who really does know soil and soil testing knows about what they're doing at the University of Mississippi. And they did a study comparing 30 plants grown in their super duper organic soil and plants grown in the tower garden. And overall, we had a higher quality of phytonutrients and minerals. It grew better, and our yield was up 30%, and it's easy, and it's using 10% less space. So to recap that, we've got a 30% higher yield. Our antioxidant equivalence is good or better, less time and maintenance, and less land and water. So from individual gardening to larger scale farms, tower gardens are resolving issues of some of the things that I have listed here. And this is not even a comprehensive list, but you can use them for educational opportunities, sourcing food more locally. There's no need for herbicides and pesticides and GMOs, and that's really important to me, as well as that year-round growing, etc. So let's take a look now into the tower farm. So you can grow fresh, healthy food almost anywhere, and we're calling these people farmpreneurs, that they're looking at different ways of making farming into a business. You can produce up to 250,000 plants in a single acre of land. So you can imagine you've got 250,000 plants in a small sector of land. It's growing 30% faster. You're using 90% less space and 98% less water. Plus, you don't have to deal with the weeds or the watering or the digging. So for those individuals, those farmpreneurs that are looking at setting up a tower farm, you will get a specialized team of support and financing. The number one thing from a tower farm perspective is we want to make sure that the farmer is set up for success. We don't want somebody getting 300 tower gardens and not have them be successful, nor do we want them to not be able to turn a profit. That is key. If you're going to go into an endeavor like this, likely you're going to want to be making money, and we want to make sure that that's going to happen for you. So let's take a look at some of the urban restaurant, greenhouse, and school farms that are out there. So first we're going to touch on the urban farms, and you can discover the ultimate urban farm solution. So this technology is allowing farmers to grow with only 10% of the land, which we touched on just a second ago. So I'm going to go through a series of pictures of where some of the tower farms are already in existence. So this is the garden at AT&T Park. This is in San Francisco. You can see the farms behind the guy and gal with their advisors on, and then that produce coming off of those towers is being used at their restaurant, but also they are turning that into programs where they bring kids to the ball field and show them how to grow food and make smart choices in the kitchen. Ibiza Farms, Ibiza is an island in the Mediterranean, and if you think about an island, if they're not able to produce what they need on that island, that has to come in by ship or by plane, and that can be very costly. And you can imagine that produce probably isn't very fresh if it's being flown in from somewhere else. So this is a great solution. They have 30 towers at the Ibiza Farms, and they are using 90% less space, which is really cool. This is an exceptional program at the Boys and Girls Club in Memphis. They have a greenhouse out back of the building. They have 22 towers. They're growing up to 400 heads of lettuce. And what the program that was created out of this Boys and Girls Club Tower Garden Farm is been really an entrepreneurial lesson for the students, where they are able to plan what they want to grow, use that produce and recipes that they're making, and then they're packaging, and then they're selling that at farmers markets, which is showing the kids how to really develop and create a whole new set of skills that they may not have. And then as they become young adults, they are walking out into the marketplace with culinary skills, customer service, marketing, etc. So now we're going to switch over to some greenhouse farms and how to maximize climate control with a greenhouse farm. So with a greenhouse, you have the opportunity to tweak some temperature. You also can avoid some environmental variables to really create a perfect environment and manage your gardens a little bit differently than if they were outdoors. So this farm is in Florida, and if you see on this first picture in kind of the little lower left corner of that first picture, there's a panel, there's a solar panel there. In the lower right picture, if you look at the back lower right part of that picture, you're actually looking through the greenhouse window and you can see another panel in the back. So we're talking serious sustainability here. The farm is run on solar, and they're also collecting rainwater. So that rainwater is used in the towers as well. Next, this is where I went for tower farm training, and I don't even have the words to describe how amazing this place was, but you can see an aisleway there. You can see the towers. These towers are commercial towers. They're growing up to, they're growing 44, they can grow 44 plants. So it's around 9 to 10 feet tall, and I'm a little over 5 feet. So I'm walking in just a wall of living plants, and it was absolutely amazing. But it was a pharmacist, a compound pharmacist, that started this farm. He's got 322 towers, and from a profit standpoint, how he's turning a profit is he's got a farmer's market a couple of days a week. He offers a CSA, which he collects money, a certain amount of money, and weekly people can come by and pick up their bag of produce. He also sells to some of the restaurants in Mesa and the surrounding area. And then from a philanthropy standpoint, he's donating quite a bit of his produce to the church that's across the street from his pharmacy. Okay, some other types of farms are indoor farms, and you might want to know, like, what's the difference between indoor and greenhouse, but we'll get into that a little bit. The greenhouse would be a house pretty much all of glass, where indoor farming is more like a building, say an old warehouse retrofitted for an environment to grow plants. And this works very well in urban areas. So here I am, I'm at the Chicago O'Hare International Airport. It was the first urban farm of its kind. There's 26 towers here. If you ever go through O'Hare, it is a must see. It's very impressive. And then some of the restaurants in the area, the Wicker Park Sushi, Wolfgang Puck, etc., they're using the produce from these towers. And then they're also using the produce from the towers to create like a salads to go little stand. So when you're at the airport, you actually can have an option to eat healthy if you're going through O'Hare. Here is a convention center. This is Orlando's convention center. It's one of the busiest convention centers in the U.S. There's 81 towers here, and the chefs are using the produce from these towers for when there's an event at the convention center that would involve catered lunches. So they have some very fresh produce that they're able to use at the Orange County Convention Center. Now, from a business standpoint, Microsoft has joined the Tower Farm family. They have 55 towers. They're yielding over 15,000 pounds of produce, and their restaurants in their Commons on Campus Plaza are using the produce that's coming off the farm. So this is, I think, really the epitome and model of a wellness program at work. So many wellness programs at work involve a gym membership, but they really don't seem to have an option when it comes to healthier eating. So this can provide an option for a workplace to bring in better food for their employees. And then the next place that you could see a tower farm would be on the rooftop. And cities have so many buildings, but they really don't have a lot of place to grow food. So we're taking it up to the top and putting farms on the rooftop. This farm is in California. It's on a 100-year-old rooftop. They have 30 towers, and they have different programs to turn a profit regarding CSA for customers, farmers markets, restaurants, and then they're doing philanthropy and giving to food banks as well. I think this is so fascinating that this grocery store chain in Louisiana called Rouse's, they have 25 towers on their rooftop. So imagine that you're at the grocery store, you're going to buy your herbs and your romaine, and how far did it travel? Oh, maybe 150 feet, because it just was from upstairs to downstairs. So I love that companies are getting out of their box and looking for ways to provide fresher food. And then this one is really amazing. This was an old abandoned Hollywood hotel. It is now a LEED Platinum certified building. It's for homeless people. They do on-the-job training, and they have some other programs there. But if you see the towers, look to the right side of the yellow half circle, and you'll see solar panels on there. So the building is utilizing the solar, and then that solar is also used for the tower gardens, and they're able to use vocational training and horticulture therapy, etc. And I love this. I think of when I donate food to the food bank, it's typically a non-perishable. Well, this gives an opportunity for there to be fresh food. And hopefully we can be at the beginning of reversing a bad cycle where the low and impoverished are fed the cheapest of the cheap food. It's time to get good food in everybody's body. And then restaurants. Oh my gosh, I would go to any restaurant that had tower gardens, because that means their food is fresh. It hasn't traveled. It hasn't been sprayed. They haven't had to apply chemicals to keep their lettuce fresh. I used to work at a restaurant, and there was a white powdered chemical that we would soak our greens in to take the brown out of the leaves and to keep it fresher. And that's just not good, not cool. So this one I love. It's in Lower Manhattan. It's in Greenwich, and it's Bell Book and Candle. And Chef Mooney has 65 towers. He's got an 80-seat restaurant. He has somebody on the roof, and then when the orders come in, they make a call from the kitchen to the roof, and then the ingredients are put into a bucket, and then it's lowered down to the kitchen window in dumbwaiter fashion. This, I love, love, love this one too. I love all of these, so I should just say I love all of them, so I don't have to say I love it all, but I do love it all. And so Hamilton Farms, we've got a couple here. They have 5 restaurants. They opened up a greenhouse operation, and now look, they've got 5 restaurants. They're sourcing their own food. Think of the profit margin that they are now creating for themselves. They're narrowing that. They are not going to have the waste. Their food is like barely, it's just traveling across the city to their restaurants. And yeah, so transportation is minimal on that. And now we have another island example. This is Baker's Bay Golf and Ocean Club. This is in the Bahamas. Just like Ibiza, if you're an island and you're not sourcing it there, you're paying a lot of money to get it in the door or get it on the island. So they have 26 towers, and they're actually in the process of adding more towers to this already existing farm that they've created. And the brand newest, like this is happening today in Denver. I captured these pictures from my friend Lisa. There's a team of Juice Plus and Tower Garden reps at Altius Farms in downtown Denver. There's over 340 farms, 340 towers, and they're putting them all together. And it's in downtown Denver, and the first floor of the building is a restaurant, and the second floor is the tower. And next, my favorite of all time, and this is true, and I apologize if you can hear the train in the background, but it's school gardens. And we know that when kids are involved in planting and growing, they are more likely to eat their produce that they're growing. And I think that everyone on the line today can agree that there is an issue with health in our nation, and primarily with kids, and primarily kids do not know where their food comes from. I live in Nebraska, so most kids may know where their food comes from, but you never know. So we've got a great system for learning with our tower gardens. In the schools, curriculum is written from kindergarten to high school. So if a teacher wants to get the towers and do project-based learning and teach science and math and environmental sciences and even video time-lapse photography, that curriculum is written for them, so they don't have to start from scratch and they can tweak it as they like. So here's one of the schools that's in Georgia. Here's another school in California, and they have 50 towers here, so that they're able to serve and provide lots of great herbs and lettuces to the students every week. And then we've got a university that has 12 towers, and they're studying and researching various aeroponic growing systems and their grad students. So to summarize, there are over 300 tower farms around the world and over 50,000 residential towers across North America. You're going to find them on the ground, rooftops, greenhouses, inside buildings with grow lights. They're in hotels, schools, airports, food banks, hospitals, and they're even in correctional facilities. The tower farms drastically reduce the carbon footprint that traditional farming leaves behind. 100% of that water and nutrients are recycled, therefore reducing the water and fertilizer waste. So I'm going to take you back to thinking of, who's a good referral? Who would you refer the person that invited you to listen to this Zoom to take a look at a tower garden? Do you know somebody who juices? That's a big expense, buying kale and parsley and cilantro to juice. You could grow that yourself. Who do you know that's a restaurant owner? Do you know a teacher? Do you know somebody who lives in an apartment who would love to garden, but they just don't have the space? So these are all individuals that would do very well with a tower garden. And so the last question to ask you all is, who do you know that wants to take charge of their food supply and have fun along the way? So I gave everybody a lot of information, and I went through it pretty quickly, but we've got a couple minutes left if anybody would. Hi, Anita. Does anybody have any questions that I can answer right now for you? And if not, you can always get back to the person who invited you to the call.
That was amazing, Lori. I really appreciate the information. And I guess my question would be, is that if somebody was interested in starting a tower farm, what does that look like?
Okay, so what that looks like if they want to start a farm is they would want to get with somebody like who's a tower garden rep, so whoever invited them to this call. And then it starts with us completing a lead form, getting some information, finding out what they're looking at, how many farms or how many towers they would like, what is their budget, are they looking at rooftop versus inside versus in a school. So we would narrow down some of that. We currently have a package of 12 towers. That's our community garden package. And if you would want to go any bigger than that, that's when you would look at doing the getting like this lead generation form is what we call it, but basically it's just a questionnaire. And then if you have a farm that's going to be 40 towers or more, then we do have special financing available for that. We currently, with the 12 towers or under, we offer 12 months free financing. But if somebody's going 40 or more, you can extend it out to 3 or 5 years. Does that answer your question, Joanne?
It does. Great information.
Hi, Rebecca. I didn't see you in the corner there. Hey, girl. Okay, well, thank you all for coming on tonight. Thank you for letting me share what many people have dreamed about and have put into implementation. And I really firmly believe that every county in our country should have somebody that runs a tower farm so we can locally source food and not have to have our food travel so far and worry about pesticides and herbicides and let kids learn, etc. So thank you all so much for letting me share.
Thank you, Lori, so much. That was awesome.
I had no idea there were so many tower farms everywhere. It's very exciting.
it is very exciting. And my son lives 2.5 miles away from that new farm going into Denver. So I'm super stoked to get out there and check that farm out once it gets up and going.
Wow.
And I thought one other thing, Lori, that you
Sure.
might have done some research on. You mentioned the towers going into schools. Maybe you should talk a little bit about grants available.
Okay, that is a great question. So the best place to look for a grant is to get online. You can drill it down to your state and see what grants are available. That is pretty much the one way that schools are able to get the funding to get towers in the door. So we accept that grant money. We as reps out in the field, we don't look for those grants and we don't write the grants, but each individual, I mean, we can certainly help somebody. I have somebody that I met this weekend and they asked me that same question. So I went out and I took a look and I found a couple of websites, and it really just, so I would really want to help that person find those grants. So how many towers do you want? So my sister's a teacher. She's written $1,000 grants every year because she feels that those are really easy. Well, she's done that for 3 years. So she's gotten 3 towers. Well, now she wants to write one for $2,000 because she wants to get 2 more. So, but I also know of a school in Oklahoma that wrote a $13,000 grant. So it really just comes down to finding it. And then there's a certain finesse in how you write a grant. So if we know somebody who's really versed at that, or if our teacher or principal knows somebody that's versed at that, that will be very helpful as well.
Wonderful. Well, that was amazing information. Thank you so much for sharing that, and especially with us. I really appreciate it. That was I learned a lot tonight. So that's a very cool tower farm in Arizona. That was huge.
It was absolutely amazing. The largest farm right now in operation is in Oklahoma, and there's over 1,300 towers there.
Wow.
I should have put it in here. I don't know why it's the biggest one, but it's called Scissortail Farms.
Wow.
That is amazing. That is amazing.
I visited that same farm that you went to in Mesa, Arizona, and I thought it was interesting that he said because Juice Plus Company is the parent company of Tower Garden, and he said the goal is to be able to have as many crops as possible in tower farms instead of relying on soil farms, because they knew they'd get better produce. It's clean, et cetera, and it's sustainable. But they're worried about losing all their farmland. So I thought, wow, that's pretty incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I thought of one.
They're pretty cool.
Do a lot of these tower farms, are they also seedling providers, or are they strictly for food production?
That's a great question. And no, not all of them are doing the seedlings, but that's another way for the tower farm to generate income.
So have you ever been to Andrea's farm in Lincoln, Grow
Yes.
Hope Farms?
Yes.
And how many tower gardens does she have?
She has 14 right now.
Okay. Oh my goodness.
And she will have more. So one of the lessons, I don't know if I want to say lessons, but so it goes back to setting up that tower farm for success. So it's recommended to start small before you dive in big. So, start with 6, start with 12, start with 20 before you would get 800, right? So it's recommended to get your feet wet, kind of figure out your system, what works, what do you like? And then that also couples with another piece of advice in that you want to be able to sell out of everything that you have. Create your market before you go big. So have the problem of not having enough, create the demand before you have so much and nobody knows what you're doing, and now what do you do with it? So I really love that advice too. They were so I think full of integrity is what I want to say, because sure, we could just sell you 500 towers, but we want you to be successful. So we would much rather sell you 20 towers first than 100.
Right. That totally makes sense. So they can get the habit of really what they're doing too.
Yes.
Especially if they're new to tower gardens, you know, so.
So
wow.
Andrea has the 14, and she's got a nice sized greenhouse right now. But then the plan is for her to erect a larger greenhouse to have more towers, you know, so she's really following that system, starting slow, and then we'll grow bigger.
That's cool.
Wow. Well, thank you. Lovely presentation. You did absolutely fabulous. Thank you so much for all of that information. It was really wonderful. So, anybody else have any questions?
Nope, just thanks, Lori. That was absolutely incredible. Really well done.
And this was recorded, right?
Yes, it's recording.
Awesome.
Yay. Awesome. All right. Well, thanks, everybody. Love you.
Thanks.
All right.
Thank you, Lori.
The bomb.